To start the bracelet, you should have two sections with an equal number of threads, and both sides should have the same colour scheme. And on the outside you should have your longest threads, and on the inside you'll have your shortest threads. But to work the first part, I'll be knotting over both the sections as though they were one section. So I've twisted mine so that they're easier to separate when I work the second part, but you don't have to do that. In other words, it's not a part of the pattern, it just makes things easier for me later. So the shortest thread should be in the centre and the longest threads should be free on either side. And to begin, I'm going to do square knots until I'm almost halfway down the bracelet. So you want to go over these threads with this one, and then over this thread with this one, and then underneath these two and pull through. And then to complete the square knot, you want to take this thread underneath these ones, and then this thread underneath this one, and then over these two and through. And just complete these square knots until you're halfway down your bracelet, or nearly halfway down. So once you've done as many knots as you need for your first half of your bracelet, you can separate back out into your sections. So I'm going to put one of the sections out of the way to begin with, and next you want to choose the colours that you want to create your diamond. So the first three colours basically that you knot here are going to be the ones that show up. So for me, I'm going to be doing blue, pink and lilac. So you want to take whichever colour you want to show up first, and you're just going to do a backward knot over the rest of the threads. And then you want to pull the backward knot underneath the rest of the threads. And then you can drop this thread, take the next colour that you want to show up, and repeat what you did for this thread. Just work over and pull through, and then work under and pull through. And again, drop this thread with the other one, and then take the next colour that you want to show up. Once again, work over and pull through, and then work under and pull through. And then you can repeat this with your next two threads, so basically until you've only got one thread remaining, which will be your knotting thread from there. And you can take whichever colours you want, but these won't form part of your diamond later. So once you've done this section, you can clip this one out of the way, and then you want to do a mirror image at this side. So basically just following the colour scheme, but instead of doing backward knots, you're going to be doing forward knots over the rest of your threads until you're down to the last thread, which should be the working thread from here. So once you've done both of these sections, you can then arrange your threads in the correct colour order so you can move on to the next part of your diamond. So once you've got your threads in colour order, you can take the two threads in the centre and then do a forward knot. And then working each section at a time, so I'm going to do the left hand section. I'm going to take this thread and I'm going to do backward knots over the next 4 threads. And then getting to the fifth and final thread, I want to do a backward forward knot. And then you want to do a mirror of that at the other side. So this time I'm going to be doing 4 forward knots. And for the fifth and final thread, I'm going to do a forward backward knot. For your next colour, again work in the centre, and do a forward knot. And then as I did before, I'm going to do the left hand section first, so I want to do 2 backward knots. And then a backward forward knot. And I want to do a mirror at the other side, so I want to do 2 forward knots. And then a forward backward knot. And next, again working in the centre, I want to do a forward knot. And then working the left hand side, I just want to do a backward forward knot. And at the other side, I want to do a forward backward knot. And then going back to the centre threads again, I want to do a forward knot. And then I want to pick up the colour that surrounds the colour that I've just done. So for me, that's the 4th thread in, and I want to do forward knots to the centre. And then you want to do a mirror image at the other side, but this time doing backward knots until you get to the centre. And then knot the centre threads in a forward knot. And next you want to take the thread that's next to the outside thread and do forward knots to the centre. And then a mirror at the other side, doing backward knots with the thread that was next to the outside thread. And then a forward knot in the centre. So once you've completed your diamond, you want to taper back to match what you did at the beginning. So to do that, I'm going to work the left hand section first. I'm taking the 2 outside threads. I'm going to take the one on the right and do backward knots. And then I'm going to take both those threads and the next thread and backward knot over both of them. And then again, holding the threads on the left, taking the right hand thread, backward knot over all of them, and keep doing this until I get to the centre. And I can drop that section, and I want to do a mirror at the other side. I want to take the right hand thread and then the left hand thread is going to knot in a forward knot over that one, and then hold both of these, take the next thread in, and again forward knot over both the threads, and then put that one with those, and again just keep knotting over all the threads until you get to the centre. And once you've completed your taper to match the other side, you can return to doing macrame knots until you get the rest of your bracelet as long as you want it to be. So once again, you can clip your two sections to the bottom of the board and work square knots until you get the bracelet as long as you want it. So I'm going to do the same amount of knots that I did there, which for me was 70, but for you may vary depending on the size of the bracelet you want to make. But if you want this bit in the centre, just do an equal amount of square knots either side. So once you've done as many knots as you need, you can do your ends. So I'm going to do simple braided tie-on ends here. So I just want to separate into 3 sections of 2 each side, and then just do simple 3-stranded braids. Once you've got the braid, as long as you want it, just tie a knot in the end to keep all your threads in place. And then you can trim up any excess. I do the same at both sides. And once you've finished, you should end up with something that looks like this. So I've finished with 2 braided tie-on ends because I started with a loop. But you could do whatever patterning you prefer. For instance, I've done a button start with this one and a loop closure.